Oh, really? Well, I can. I know. We're gonna start our Zoom meeting, and those who are coming in will just have to join us in midstream. I could start. All right, thank you very much. Can I have your attention? We're going to get started. Okay. Good evening, everyone. And welcome to this town hall meeting about the Gates Mills Comprehensive Plan. I'm going to thank you for being here in person. Can I have your attention? This room does not have good acoustics, so I'm going to ask you to give your attention. Good evening, and welcome all of you to this. Yeah. Well, welcome to this town hall meeting about the comprehensive plan. We'd like to thank you for being here in person, or for those who are joining us on Zoom. And we'd also like to thank the Mayfield City School District. Can I have your attention? We'd like to thank the Mayfield City School District for the use of their gym. Because
thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, because as you know, the art show is going on, and we weren't able to get into the community house. We have a little competition this evening, as you all know, both a baseball game and a great Cavaliers game tonight. But this meeting ends at 8, so you're going to be home in time to watch the game. Don't worry about it. My name is Sandra Turner. I'm a council member and co-manager of this strategic planning process. This evening, Chip Allwater and Chris Hopkins and I are going to be your hosts. We have so many people to thank for getting us to this point in the comprehensive plan. Residents who attended the initial town hall meeting, those who completed the survey, attended a neighborhood meeting, and we'd also very much like to thank the members of the various committees that contributed to this plan. And they include our advisory committee, our outside perspectives, our neighborhood outreach committee, and PR and communications. We'd also like to thank the mayor and members of the village council who voted to approve the comprehensive planning process. And finally, our consulting firm, CT Consultants, and our project manager, Chris Hopkins. For those of you who are coming in now, we're going to ask you to fill up the tables, although that may not be a problem because it looks like folks are coming in. But we'd like each table to be filled so that you can have a rich discussion. All right, so what's going to happen tonight? What can you expect? First is a presentation. You're going to hear about the basics of what is a comprehensive plan, the issues that undergird the plan that's being proposed. You'll understand the process and the progress over the last 15 months, really, since this whole initiative began. And finally, the goals and objectives that have emerged. Second, the advisory committee is looking for your input to help prioritize these goals and objectives. So we've put together a meeting design that's going to allow every one of you, if there's 100 or 120 or 80 people here, every one of you to express your opinion on the worksheet. So as we communicated about this in advance, we have devised this method to receive your feedback. There are 6 goals that we're going to review, and we have 2 hours. So we know that we can get it. We know that we can get it done this way. So let's move on to the presentation. Some of you have been reading the materials online, others of you have not. So what we want to do first is create a common foundation from which all of you can be discussing the same information. So with that, I'd like to introduce Chris Hopkins, Manager, Planning Services for CT Consultants. Chris has 35 years planning experience. She has a master's degree in public administration from Cleveland State University, a bachelor's in urban planning from the University of Cincinnati. She's a fellow of the American Institute of Certified Planners. So welcome, Chris.
Good evening. It's very exciting to see so many people out tonight. And one of the things that I would like to compliment Gates Mills on is your commitment to the community. And that is very important when it comes to a comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan, the project that the village has been working on for, as Sandra said, about 15 months, is a guide for the future of the village. It's a guide that the Planning Commission and Council can refer to, as well as individual homeowners to see what the village envisions for their area. It addresses the physical environment of the village, the economic environment, and the social well-being. And so we have components of that in the comprehensive plan that you're going to review tonight. The important thing to point out is that it does not change any zoning. There is nothing in here that will effectuate any change to the zoning by the village council adopting this plan. So I just want to make that clear because that question has already come up tonight. In terms of, as I mentioned, in terms of a comprehensive plan, it's very important for the community to be involved, because even though I've been doing this for a number of years and I've worked with a variety of different communities, every community is unique. Every community, you might have characteristics of similar, there might be some communities that are similar to Gates Mills, but the totality of all your characteristics make you unique. And so that's why it's very important for residents and community stakeholders to be involved, because I cannot tell anyone in any community what it is they should do, what their comprehensive plan should include in it. It is something that my role with the advisory committee and with the council members has been to shepherd the process and to provide educational information and to actually do the writing to capture what the community has said and put it down. So what this slide is showing is the variety of people and the number of people who have participated in the comprehensive plan. So first and foremost is the advisory committee. 25 residents have participated and have participated in, we've had 7 meetings, we have 1 more planned, and we've had great turnout and a lot of discussion, a lot of committed residents who have voiced their thoughts and opinions. The village residents, as Sandra mentioned, you have had a chance to weigh in on the process as well. The community survey that was conducted back in June had a tremendous response rate of 43%. The average for an online survey is somewhere between 15 and 30%. So you can clap your, pat yourself on the back for the tremendous response rate. We also conducted interviews with individual community leaders at the beginning of the process. The village held a town hall meeting, which was then followed up by 5 different neighborhood meetings. So everyone, we've had a lot of attendance. Everyone had a chance to have small table discussions at those neighborhood meetings and provide a lot of feedback. That we also have a number of residential-led teams, the Outside Perspectives, who conducted interviews with different realtors to provide a perspective, their viewpoint on what home buyers are looking for. We have 8 people on the PR and communications team, neighborhood outreach and neighborhood captains who were instrumental in setting up the neighborhood meetings. Now, to spend just a few minutes on the process. So early on, the first couple of meetings with the advisory committee was gathering facts, presenting them, looking at the demographics and other data, hearing and presenting the results of the interviews to the advisory committee, reviewing the results of the survey, and hearing from 3 different subject matter experts back in September. And then the advisory committee has been the entity that's been responsible for agreeing on and shaping the content of the plan, and formulating or helping to formulate the vision and the goals and refine the objectives. And then finally, the process we're at tonight is reviewing the plan, elements of the plan. So it's your turn to weigh in on the vision and the goals and the objectives. So I just want to spend a minute then going over what all of those terms mean. So the way the document that we have prepared so far and that we're going to run through tonight, it starts with the vision statement. And this is a paragraph or a few sentences about what it is about Gates Mills for the long term, the vision for the future described, and what you would like to see, what you would like to, how you would describe the village. Then it's broken down into, as Sandra said, 6 different goals. And those goals are on your table in your worksheets. Each goal then is supported by a set of objectives. So they are not as, they're a little more definitive than a broad goal, but they help to identify what the type of action the village should be taking or considering. And then there are a set of strategies that are potential activities that help achieve the objective, which then also helps to achieve the goal. So that's in a nutshell, how the comprehensive plan is structured. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chip.
No, Sam.
Oh, Sandra.
It's okay, Chris, we're interchangeable at this point. All right, vision and goals. So you have this finding, because you may be able to read it, but it's also in your handout. And each of you have one of these handouts, a worksheet that's about 6 pages or so. So here are the findings that came as a result of all the inputs that Chris was just talking about. So the first one is residents treasure the village's rural historic character, want to ensure it remains. The second is that high percentage are longtime residents, and a high mix are older residents. 30% are at or above 65 years of age or older, compared to 16.7% statewide. 47% of the residents who completed the survey were here more than 21 years, and actually 70% who completed the survey are 55 years or older. So again, 30% are 65 or over, 70% are 55 or older. There's a perception among you that the housing stock is outdated, and many need updating to be able to attract new home buyers. The next one, view that continuing land conservation efforts and maintaining current lot size zoning requirements, 5 acres, are the best ways to retain the overall village character. And Chris alluded to that before when she said about no change in zoning. Desire for no more housing than currently allowed, but some believe more choices are needed, particularly for those wanting to downsize but remain in the village. And there's more discussion about that in goal C, desirable housing and development. The next one, historic village center is where community happens. It's important to retain its charm. The next one, residents desire services to support aging residents. We need contemporary amenities to attract the next generation of residents. And overall, residents desire progress, but are wary of change. And I think that would probably be true in any community. So if we go on to the next slide, those overall findings translate into a vision. And that vision, and again, this is over a 10-year period, is to continue to be a highly desirable community that preserves and enhances attributes that make the village special, outstanding, serene, rural natural environment, historic houses, architecture, character, small town values, easy access to nearby amenities, desirable neighborhoods and housing stock. Next, fosters a deep appreciation of the village's unique quantities. You don't have this handout, I don't believe, but it is up. Oh, it is on the front page. Okay, you do have it. Attracts new wage earning residents, retains existing residents, and inspires a commitment to the village's continued overall high quality of life. So this again is how the village intends to look in years to come. So we move on then from the vision to getting a little bit more practical into how is this going to be accomplished. And we have some themes here, and they're on a separate slide just so that you can see them without a lot of other verbiage. Rural village character, harmony with nature, desirable housing and neighborhoods, community pride and engagement, access and connections, quality amenities and services. So again, this is kind of a high level, but getting into a little bit more specificity from the themes. So here's the slide that has a lot on it that I didn't want to overwhelm you with right off the bat. But the themes and goals, and just to highlight a couple of things here, if you think about these, they're the descriptions of the goals that will practically guide the village towards its vision over the next 10 years. So it's the what when you look at a comprehensive plan. So again, just calling out a few of the words: retaining, preserving the rural character, wanting to be a leading, sustainable municipality, contributing to improving Gates Mills resiliency, environmental resiliency, desirable housing and neighborhoods, preserve the variety and value of existing housing and neighborhoods while carefully managing the limited allowance for new housing. Community pride and engagement, foster a sense of community pride and increase engagement. Access and connections has to do with connectivity between neighborhoods and between those neighborhoods and the downtown center, but also connectivity in terms of internet, telephone, etc. And finally, quality amenities and services, continue to maintain and enhance community amenities, services that support our high quality of life. It's interesting to me that there's some synergy going on here. And in recent months, there's a couple of things that have happened in the village or are about to happen in the village that seem to be really in sync with these goals. And it includes a couple of events. You may have gone recently to the Easter egg hunt, which I think was one of the most highly attended ever. New kind of themes, cutouts, a lot of fun for all the kids. The Halloween party was again expanded with some indoor, outdoor venues, segmented kids of all different ages. Again, these two kind of come under community pride and engagement. There has been talk for a while of a new sidewalk to go between the school parking lot here on into the village center, the library. And that is underway. You should see that construction shortly. Some other ones that I think are, and that would go with connectivity. Two others that I think many of you know about, but I think would be very excited to hear again, is a new coffee shop that will be going in the former Cindy Halley space. You can go into, as if you were going to Sarah's, but turn right. Coffee, pastries, salads, sandwiches, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So that should be up and running in May. And finally, discussion, no definite plans, not approved by council, but exploration of expanding the upstairs of Burton Hall so that Sarah's could expand their bar and restaurant up there. So again, more about community pride and engagement. So again, you know, just hopefully as a resident, you've maybe seen that even the neighborhood discussions have energized some community spirit that that hopefully will be inspiring this plan over the next 10 years. So now that we've established a framework, Chip is going to come up and talk about next steps and your important role this evening.
Well, thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Chris. So with that overview, it is now time for all of you to go to work. I hope you didn't think you were just going to be able to sit there all night. So what the advisory committee is looking for at this point in the process is to learn what you think are the top priorities among the various goals and objectives of the plan. So we're working, yeah, thank you. We're working, the goal is going to be to get you guys to give us feedback, to give the advisory committee feedback on what do you want the priorities to be. So as Chris and Sandra laid out for you, there are 6 goals, each of which have some various objectives under those goals. And then under each objective is some possible or potential strategies that would help you think about how you might accomplish the objective. Overall, there are 21 objectives across 6 goals, and not every objective can be a top priority. So we're going to put you through the paces and break this meeting up into sections and ask you to go through. You're going to want to be studying and talking about the goals. The first section, if I go to the actual format here, and this page that's up here is a little hard to read perhaps, but it's also the other half of one of the handouts on your table. And so we're going to spend 25 minutes or so for each table to go through goals 1 and 2. Then we're going to take a 5-minute break. Then each table is going to go through goals 3 and 4 and prioritize. And then we're going to spend probably 15 to 20 minutes on goals 5 and 6. They're a little more straightforward. And then we're going to do an overall ranking of the 6 overall goals. So, I'm sorry? Okay, so did I say 1 through 6? It's A and B. Yeah, A and B, C and D, E and F. If I said something wrong, apologies. So, oh, I'm sorry. The sheet says 1 and 2. It should say A and B. Just realized that. Sorry about that. We didn't catch that. So I'm going to show you an example of a worksheet. Again, it's hard for you to see up on that screen. So again, the bottom half of the schedule is just an example. And what you see on here happens to deal with goal A, and at the top is a description of the goal. And then you'll see objective A1, and beneath that, the next section, objective A2, then objective A3, and objective A4. And next to that, you see a little bar, a 5-point bar that says for you to determine the priority from low to high. Now, if it's only 4 objectives, that might be a little simple, but we're trying to make life a little more difficult. So we're asking you to do both goal A and B. And when you get to your packets, which we'll turn to in a minute here, there are 4 more objectives under goal B. So you will be in this next 25 minutes wrestling with 8 objectives and trying to give us feedback on the priorities as you see them. Now, not everything can be a priority. So you may love every one of these, and I hope you do. And if you do, then you're really going to have to struggle, because we would like you to have no more than 3 high priorities. If you find some priorities that you just don't mean much to you, or you're not really sure about, you don't have to fill in a bar. And if you really don't think it's something that is all that important, or something nothing in the very near term, then you certainly could rate that as a low priority. So that's the overall goal here. If you turn to your packet, and I apologize, we try to provide different material for you, but you were looking at that cover sheet. So now page 2, front and back of your packet, is the worksheet for goal A and B. And that's what you're going to want to be working through. So with that, I'm just going to give you, again, a very quick overview of goal A and goal B, just to give you a quick summary description. So goal A deals with rural village character. Yes, sir. Well, we're going to encourage you, and I'll go back to encourage you to talk at each table. And you know, what do you think might be a high priority, and listen to some other people and kick it around. But then we're looking for each of you to fill out the individual sheet. So, yes. Hold on a second, I've got one more question here. Okay, so this is a good question. Under the objective are specific strategies. Those are just potential ways to carry it out. And Celeste was raising a good point that you may like the overall goal, and you may like one of the strategies, and you don't necessarily like the other strategy. You know, if you want, you know, write something on your docket. This is all, you're all going to turn in your things, and we're going to tabulate it. But we want to take you back at least to the objective level, and to focus on how strong you feel and how high a priority that should be. Yes, now. Oh, you know, if you'd like to do that, that's fine. That, you know, that's more data. We're trying to stay at the objective level, because when you add up all the strategies and objectives, you're up to like 120. And we thought that might be a little burdensome for the crowd. So, so we're keeping it at the objective level. So let me come back and summarize the rural village character. Goal A it deals with the first objective deals with the natural environment and habitat. The second objective deals with scenic views and natural landscaping. The third deals with tree canopy, and the fourth deals with dark-filled skies. And then objective B, the harmony with nature, alternative and clean energy systems, environmentally responsible best practices, composting, recycling, and diversion opportunities, and ways to village to be even more sustainable. So those would be the 8 objectives that you're going to wrestle with and prioritize for the advisory committee to finalize their advice. And quite frankly, this will carry a lot of weight to council when we get the final report and sit down and say, well, you know, there's a lot here. What should we focus on? We're going to probably be pretty reliant on saying, well, based on the community input and the advisory committee, we think we ought to tackle these, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 things first. So There was one question, as you know, we all asked for questions, asked the residents if they had questions to submit them beforehand. There was one that's relevant to goal B, objective B2 on the environmentally responsible best practices dealt with the erosion and stormwater and the topographical maps, which we have posted over here. Those are on the website and will be in the final report. So just wanted to answer that one. So with that, time has started, so get talking. Please talk at the table. I think you'll learn something from your fellow residents and neighbors and start filling out the forms. Just a question that came up, when you are going to put down your priority, do it with an X or a big dot or whatever on the scale, just so it's a noticeable mark.
I don't know that I met yet. I know the name and but I don't.
Chris, this is a little confusing.
And should I give a 10-minute warning? This is a 10-minute warning, so make sure that in your discussions, you're also really wrestling with your priorities on your individual form. Thank you. All right. Any tables still need any more time? All right, I'll tell you what, take a couple of minutes. And if your table is, well, if you're done discerning your priorities, your top three, they don't have to be listed 1, 2, 3, but if you picked your high priorities and all the rest, we're just going to take a little break. You know, catch your breath. There's some water back there. If you need to use the restrooms, there's one adult restroom, might be a long line. If you go into the other one, you're going to find the seats are a little low. So this being an elementary school, so we'll then we'll pick back up on get into goal C and D here in a few minutes. Okay, so,
Okay, everybody. It's 7 o'clock and your 5-minute break is over and the taskmaster is back. So we're gonna move on now. You've done a great job with A and B, and we're not gonna move on to C and D. So it's really the same process that you're becoming familiar with now. Okay, can I have your attention? We still have little conversations going on. Okay, so we're gonna do C and D, and again, just to highlight these, you may be familiar with them from reading them online, but desirable housing in neighborhoods, encourage investments in existing housing stock, goes back to the notion that we've got housing stock that needs to be updated to attract new residents. Provide housing choices that are consistent and compatible with the density of the surrounding housing. Expand housing options for older and retiring residents. And under D, maintain and enhance the village center as a place for active community interaction. And 2, expand and modernize communication strategies and methods to increase awareness of local services and events, foster a welcoming environment. We did have one two resident questions in this area. And one was, can zoning be changed by village council without being voted on by residents? And it can. The village council has the authority to change zoning. However, it can also be done by a resident initiative for a ballot vote to be undertaken. So it could be either way. Council could also decide to put it on a ballot, but they alone, yes, according to the charter, do have the authority. The next question was, does resident retention result in new construction development of townhouses or apartments? So the comprehensive plan it's clear that there's no desire to change lot zoning, so lot size zoning. We've been iterating that a couple of times. The only change to consider involves the setbacks on the village center area zoned for 7,500 square foot lots. So if this change were to occur, it would have to be compatible and in keeping with the village center's historic character. Okay, so those are the two questions. So again, we're going to put you back to work, do the same thing for C and D. No more than 3 high priorities for the combination of C and D. And we're going to give you 25 minutes to work on these as well. Chip and I will walk around if you have any questions. Okay, I have a correction. Since there's only 5 objectives in C and D, if you could limit the high priorities to 2. There's only 5, so limit to 2. Thank you. All right, let me interrupt you. It looks like a number of tables. Can I have your attention? It looks like a number of you are finishing up, so we'll give you another 5 minutes to score your worksheet. And then we'll move on to E and F. People are finishing. I just gave you 5 minutes. to finish their scorecard. So like, we divide them up according to which goal. Like at the beginning, I talked about.
Yeah. Are they gonna answer?
So the one, what you All right. I'm assuming that everybody's had a chance to fill out their worksheets. Good, all right. Doing well. If we can have your attention, we're going to move on to the last two goals.
All right. We are on the home stretch. Oops. So this deals with goals E and F. There's only 2 objectives in E, and there are 6 in F. So again, the exercise is 8 different objectives, top 3 priorities, and any weighting on the, or any, rating on any of the others. E is 2 simple ones dealing with road infrastructure, and then pedestrian, biking, and other trail facilities. F, I do struggle with this just personally as I read all this, that I guess I'd like to meet anybody that doesn't rate excellent safety services at the top of the list, so that's almost a given. But obviously I think we all want that, and that's obviously to continue that. But the other amenities and services deal with community amenities and services that increase the residents' ability to age in place, provide more children-oriented community activities and services, continue to work with the Mayfield City School District and the communities therein, explore ways to improve electric service, and improve cellular and internet service. And I think that Sandra mentioned it, but did you mention the cell tower? So just as news, if you weren't tracking, we've been working with the cell carriers for at least 6 years, trying to get their attention because we know we've got lots of spots in the village with terrible coverage. We focused on Gilmore. Gilmore was all set to do a tower about 5 years ago, then backed off. We continued to try to put pressure on Verizon. We even picked another spot that would not be as ideal, but maybe that would get their interest. But then Gilmore decided to move ahead. Well, we worked with Gilmore to really raise the issue of safety. If you're standing in the middle of the Gilmore campus, you cannot get cell service at all. And as we all know from some of these school issues over the last few years, when there's an issue on campus, a lot of people like to use their cell phones. And so we brought it up as a safety issue that seemed to have dislodged Verizon. And at last Tuesday's council meeting, we made the final approval for Gilmore's plans. They're underway with a new cell tower that will probably be, and Verizon's going to be working closely with them. So
We're optimistic that there'll be a new tower on the Gilmore property that'll really help that whole section of the village, hopefully by September, October. So, and we have another spot that we're then going to work on that would cover the northwest, the northeast corner of the village, which should give us adequate coverage. But a lot of talk about internet service and fiber, so that deals with that one. There were a couple of questions that came from the residents that deal with this. One was on the trails. And again, when you read a little bit of that detail, the language in the plan talks about trails with the Gates Mills Land Conservancy properties and the village-owned properties. Obviously, trails through private properties, that would have to deal with whether a private owner had any interest in that. The advisory committee really wrestled with how far to go, and of course, there's been a long controversy of joining with the Metro Parks, and the advisory committee was pretty clear in their conclusion that didn't want to go that far, but more just within, again, the village land conservancy and private property, village property. And then we got several questions about the Mayfield schools and the Gates Mills Elementary. First, with regard to Gates Mills Elementary, the plan does say encourage to do more with Gates Mills Elementary and to work with Mayfield schools on that regard. There's some sentiment that, gee, maybe this property could be put to better use and it would save the village or save the school system some money. The advisory committee wrestled with that and was very clear that they think the elementary school is a very strong attribute of the village. So that's what's in the draft of the plan. And there are comments about, that the taxes are high for the schools, that there's a levy in the works potentially in maybe 2024 or 25. And a lot of discussion about the performance of the Mayfield schools. We had an expert come in and present to the advisory committee on that topic, what could be done. And the plan is largely, basically silent on that. It encourages to interact more with Mayfield school system, but it doesn't touch on, how well the school is run or the tax burden or things like that. That's really the prerogative of the school system, but didn't feel the advisory committee and quite frankly, at the advice of the consultant, that that's not really a scope that we can do much about. So I think those were the two questions that were raised on that. So with that, if you know the drill now, so we'll give you another 15 minutes or so on going through the E and F, and again, try to limit yourself to 3 high priorities. Thank you. By the way, if anybody has to leave, we certainly understand it. Make sure you leave your docket, your material on the table, and we'll be collecting all of them. So, John, don't walk out with your docket. Thanks.
Guys. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
How was your table discussion? Was it actually?
Yeah, rather than cut them off. It seems like folks have completed their worksheets for E and F, so we have one more task. We have one more task before we close for the evening, and that is to go to the final page in your workbook, and we're going to ask you at this point, can I have your attention? We're going to ask you to go to your last page and go ahead and prioritize the goals. So if you haven't done that, please go in now and prioritize the goals. We have a couple more resident questions to address, and then we'll close for the evening. Okay, if you have to leave. All right. As we draw to a close. All right, as we draw to a close, we have one more segment. I see people laughing and talking, so I know they're finished with prioritizing their goals, right? All right, we want to get people home in time to watch the game. So we have one final task, and then we're going to thank you all, talk about next steps, and then conclude our meeting. But we said earlier that we had solicited questions from residents, and we had 8 residents who did submit questions in advance. Some of them we've addressed as we went through the different goals, but there are 4 more remaining that didn't fit into any of those categories. So we wanted to address those now. So one of them was, how is success measured? Who's responsible? When would the next plan occur? Who's going to be doing the monitoring? So the answer is the village council and mayor are going to determine the measures of progress and success and determine when the next plan would be appropriate. So that's not something that the advisory committee is doing. The second item or question was about attracting wage earning family. Is that to meet an income tax revenue goals? So I think the question was, are we looking for new residents because we want to bolster the coffer, so to speak? In fact, 2020 to 22 were very robust years and unprecedented times for house sales and for attracting new residents, except that including young families. But prior to that, we had homes on the market for months, and so we always have to kind of be alert and prepared for those ebbs and flows. The fact is that basically 50% of our income, our revenue comes from income tax, and the other half from real estate tax. I know that changed a little bit in recent years with one high income earning individual who really boosted our family, that really boosted our revenue. But again, it's mostly 50-50. So we always have to stay vigilant, but it's not an attempt to secure our finances, which are really pretty robust at this particular point in time. We have our treasurer with us here, and he always makes great reports every month, and we have what, 9.5 million? And so we're doing well. So there are two more questions.
So two other questions that came up. You know, the question that came up throughout the comprehensive plan development process is, what does the advisory committee do about, you know, if they have an idea, recommendation, and there's a cost implication to it? And basically, they were not asked to be constrained on cost, obviously. And let me just give you an example in the plan, which is burying electric power lines. You will read in one of the details that that's something to consider. It would be wonderful if we could do that. It's also likely, we don't really have a more frequent quote, but the number that floats around is 2 million plus per mile to bury the lines. So, you know, if everybody would be happy to double their taxes and pay us, then they, but that's an example of, okay, there's clearly power lines and the downage and everybody's power outages is a big concern. And so that's going to be something that we're going to wrestle with. But so there, the point is that as council and the mayor and the community start to wrestle with the recommendations and advice from the advisory committee, obviously cost becomes a factor to consider, and obviously could then become a constraint. And then another, I think, question was, what has been the cost of this study? The original proposal was $57,500. We expanded the scope after the start to actually incorporate more interviews and get more input, and really wrestle with the interview guide, or not the interview guide, the survey, community survey. And that was about another 12,500. So we're at the moment at 70,000. We're not completely done. And so we don't know what the final outcome will be, but that's the status at this point. So I think at this point, if you finished everything on your filled out, including the 6 priorities at the end, if you still need a little time, you can sit around, but otherwise, we're going to wrap this up. Chris will cover the next steps, and I think that'll be it.
So thanks again, everyone, for coming and giving us your opinions on the sheets. The next step is that after tonight, I'll take all of these back to our office, and we will tabulate all of them and present the results to the advisory committee at the May meeting. That date is yet to be determined, so advisory committee members, be on the lookout for a meeting scheduling preference. And once that, or at that meeting, the advisory committee will make a determination in terms of priorities, so that that's guidance to village council in terms of, out of all of the objectives, goals and objectives that have been written out in the plan, it will provide council an idea of ranking, so that what should they deal with first? What are the top 3 or 4 activities that council should focus on moving forward in the next couple of years? And then tackle things as their time and schedule allows. So with that, again, thanks very much. Oh, and then, so at that May meeting, then the advisory committee will make a determination on how the plan gets revised. And it will be presented then to village council at the June meeting, based on the recommendation of the advisory committee. So thanks again.
And a big thank you to you, Chris, Chip, and Tom. Leave them on the table.
You can go out, you can leave, you can exit to your left. Leave them on the, leave your forms on the table, we'll pick them up, and you can exit out to your left. Never know.